Welcome to the SnapCast podcast, where two friends who love Magic the Gathering, Brad O'Brien and Zach Moeller, talk about all things competitive, casual, and financial in the world of MTG. That was loud.
That was a little bit loud. How's it going today, everybody? How's it going, Brad?
It's going pretty good, man. The weather up here is nice. I'm actually on vacation this week.
Oh, nice. Good for you.
And by that, I mean I'm mostly just hanging around my house. This is spring break week for the college students at the college where I work, and I was like, there are some things I could do, or I could use some of my vacation time. And then I was like, I'm sitting around the house. What am I going to do?
All those house chores you got to do.
All those house chores. Yeah, I did that great adulting stuff. I drained my snowblower today, and I said, it's probably going to make sure that we get one more good blizzard.
Yep.
Because I finally put the snowblower away for this season. Probably a foolish thing to do in March in Maine.
We'll probably get a few more.
Yeah.
Like they shouldn't be that bad.
That's my theory is, if it snows again, God or whoever put it there, they'll take it away. It's going to melt in a day or two. It was 45 today. It's going to be closer to 50 tomorrow. It's going to be almost 60 on Friday.
Very nice weather for March in Maine, but I'll take it. Early spring is probably coming.
Yeah. My driveway is mushy.
Not as bad as driveways that are just pure mud. You've kind of got that crushed stone driveway. It helps. My girlfriend does not. She has a strictly mud driveway, and we have to single file park at this point because half our driveway is unusable, basically. So,
how's your week going? What have you been up to?
Work's been fine so far. This week I do a fair bit of traveling. So, like today I was in Portland, which for people not in the state of Maine is about 2 hours away from where we are located.
2.5 if you drive the speed limit.
Yep. And then I'm basically just traveling all this week except for Friday. But that's what I do. My job is mostly traveling and then treating for bugs. So
vermin. Speaking of vermin, I tried to play a rat last night at Modern.
You did.
I cast it one time. It died before I got to combat.
I meant to ask you how that went for you. Like the combo portion of your day. I know how you did overall.
Well, so I thought about it today.
Mm-hmm.
And for the listeners, the last couple of episodes, I think I've sort of joked and hinted at, I wanted to build some sort of deck that had the Grease Fang Parhelion combo in it. And I've been looking at black-white Grief Blade lists and trying to figure out how to jam Grease Fang into it. So I threw something together that seemed like an amalgamation of all of those things, sleeved it up, and took it to our Modern event yesterday, which was a 4-round event. In the first round, I played against Rhinos. I took one game. Mm-hmm. I got the bye. No, I took one game, so I lost that round. In the second round, I got the bye. In the third round, I played against Tron.
Yep.
I won one game, but lost the round.
Mm-hmm.
And in the fourth round, you and I played.
We did, as is tradition.
As is tradition, the last round, somehow we end up paired against one another. And I took one game in our matchup.
Yep.
So I played 3 matches. I won 3 games, which tells me that the deck, there's something there.
Mm-hmm.
Like it can do something. But I was hedging my bets, so I only had 3 Grease Fang and 3 Parhelion in an 80-card Yorion black-white deck.
That's right. You were playing 80 cards instead of 60, which is probably the typical way people have been trying to put this together.
Yeah, actually, I did find that this is my new guru. I want to try and follow this guy, and I'll put it right up on screen for the YouTube viewers. I found this guy from Italy, Alessandro Casamente, who's been doing pretty well in their local tournaments. 32 players, top 8ing, 2 months in a row, with a black Orzhov Ephemerate, sort of the idea that I was going through. Mm-hmm. And it just made me think, this is a 60-card list. If I put 4 Greasefang and 4 Parhelion into that deck, and then a few more lands, I can get a couple more spells, call it a Yorion deck.
Yep, you could.
And so I'm happy to experiment with it. Last night, because I only had 3 and 3, one time I pitched a Parhelion to evoke a Solitude. And one time I did have, I also was playing some Looter Scooters.
Yep.
And I had one in play. It got blowed up. And then at the next turn I played Greasefang and it got killed before I could get the
engine going.
The go to combat trigger to bring it back from the graveyard. So, again, I played a total of 9 games. I won 3. Not a great record, but also not a big sample size.
Yeah.
I have a gig with the band on Friday, or I would be super excited to take my updated version and...
Well, it is, so, you do have to have Greasefang stick around, right? So you really have to play him. You have to have that setup. You have to have whatever you want to recur in the graveyard already. And then you have to play him. And, I mean, he does trigger that same turn, but you have to dodge removal spells.
Oh, yeah.
And, everything dies to removal. And unfortunately, there's a lot of removal. It's not so much instant speed removal anymore in the modern format, but there's still enough that you kind of have to play around it.
Right. And so so that actually, I thought about that in my deck building process, which was I can't just have that as my only creatures. I can't have just Stoneforge as my only creatures. So I was thinking about if I'm going to have Scooter in this deck, what's a 1-drop that I can play 1/2, like 1-drop into Scooter. I'm in black-white, so I thought Esper Sentinel.
Yep.
Like, maybe that would give me some card draw. Maybe that's a super magnet for removal. The next thing that I put into the list that I played last night was I played 3 Dothy Voidwalkers.
Yep, that's a good one.
Heavy blacklist, and again, it's got shadow, can't be blocked, carries equipment like nobody's business, can crewcopter, no problem. Will occasionally give me some other spells to cast, and is just it's a magnet for removal. Like, people have to deal with that. So I was thinking through those. Okay, my 1-drops, my 2-drops were Dothy Voidwalker and Stoneforge Mystic.
Yep.
And so all of those things need to be killed. Like, they're all definitely modern, playable, powerful cards. I played 3 Lilianas to give me something to pitch. I played 3 Collective Brutality, which I realized the problem with Collective Brutality.
Which is?
Which is the duress is only a duress. It will only take an instant or sorcery. It's not like an Inquisition or Thoughtseize that takes a non-land card.
Yep.
So even though it might have been a good way to get rid of a dork, I only really played against dorks when I played you.
Yep.
So in round 1, I played rhinos. Yes, I could have Collective Brutality'd Shardless Agent, but that's the only thing in the deck that it gets. And it doesn't, like, maybe a post-combat trick, because it's a sorcery. Like, so you can't even use it in blocking, like, to be tricky. Anyway, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to changing it. Got lots of good advice from you and from some of the other folks. Was definitely running too many lands, overestimated what.
Yeah.
Like, when I tried to look at Yorion decks, I was looking at all of the land-based Yorion decks, the 4-color piles and things like that they're trying to run 4 and 5 colors and make land drops every single turn.
Right.
I don't necessarily need to do that in an ephemerate deck. Actually, the list that we were looking at, the 60 card list, is only running 16 real lands and then another 7 modal double-face lands. So they're actually running pretty light. They're at 23 out of 60 cards, which is just about a third. So I was like, if I go down to 30 in an 80 card deck, I'm probably on par, maybe 32.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And at least that way you'll be able to make space for other things.
Right. The
Thoughtseizes, Inquisitions,
Fatal Push in the main deck.
Push, and more copies in the main board because you were only running two last night. So yeah, I think you definitely have a good place to start. Right. I think the 80 card Yorion build will be unique. You just have to find a good balance.
Unique. And it's like a what's that thing? It's like rubber nails. Just because you're unique doesn't mean you're useful. It was our first event post. Well, did you play on Friday?
Last Friday, yes.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so that was probably the first event post ban, right?
Yep.
When I got there last night, few people were asking, "Did you guys all update your decks for the post banning?" And Andy was literally taking Lurrus out of a sleeve.
Yep. And I think he forgot to do that. And then he actually had a round one bye, and he forgot to add a few cards for round two, which he caught. I think it was like maybe 10 minutes before round two started. So he was fortunate enough to get that fixed.
He was also playing a very new list.
He was.
Invoke Despair, which has been popping up a little bit. Some folks have been testing, basically playing mono black, actually playing Cabal Coffers and Urborg in Modern to make massive amounts of mana to play some big nasty spells.
Yeah, and I've seen this a few times on Moto, and it's different. It's mostly spell based, I think. Very few creatures. Dorothy Voidwalker, I believe, is one of them.
Yep.
But it's something to be aware of. I think it probably doesn't have a lot of playability for like high-end events, but your local Friday Night Magic, maybe a little bit here and there online, I would definitely expect to see it.
Yeah. Well, and I just wonder if it's one of those things. Obviously, Cabal Coffers is so powerful that if there are a couple of people on the edges of Modern working on it,
yep,
that they don't figure it out.
It's a matter of time. Just like Greasefang. It's just a matter of time until it really makes a show in Modern and Pioneer.
Yeah.
So,
and that's one of those things that only people that are actually really excited about it are going to put the time into to do it. Because even we want to talk about some lists and events that just came up. I did look at the recent Pioneer stuff, and it was mostly like burn and typical stuff. Now, that's funny. We brought up all the lists from Saturday and Sunday, but I didn't. I closed my Modern stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the reason why I asked about post-ban events, what you played on Friday, what we played last night, and what we're going to look at from over the weekend, without talking about the major events, did you notice a difference in Modern?
Not on the local scale. I mean, our shop is pretty dedicated to select few things. Other than like maybe GB playing a different list altogether, I don't really think I saw anything. But that's to be expected.
I mean, that's the list he played at the 1K.
It is. Yep. It is. I think he changed it a little bit.
Yeah. That would not surprise me.
But no one was on. I think Doofer was on Enchantress instead of Death Shadow, but that could have just been because he wanted to play it for a change.
Yeah.
I don't think he's settled on a newish build for Death Shadow yet. So.
No, and we can definitely
look at some new lists.
Some new lists. Actually, why don't we look at Saturday's challenge?
Sure.
And this was exciting because you had folks from your Discord that made the top 12 or top 11.
Yep. Fnatic made 11th with Mono Blue Merfolk.
Yeah.
And he posted it afterwards, and then had some negative comments for the deck that he actually played because he didn't like the configuration of it. He was playing Archmage's Charms, and then he was playing like 2 Cavernous Souls and 4 Mutavaults, which don't tap for blue. So he had some issues with that, and he flat out said he wouldn't recommend the list, even though he had a good showing with it at 6-2. It needed some more work. So
So I messaged you, was it Andrea Mengucci that had just recently streamed Fish and was hyping it up, like that maybe it was good. And you were like, yeah, somebody over the weekend did pretty well, so I'm not surprised that a streamer picked it up. But the streamer said it was a bad list. And I was just like, it's modern. Yeah, you can top 16 with a potato on a good day.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think it's good. I feel like, and this is very anecdotal, we've seen Merfolk in the top 16 a couple of times just since you've been on the cast.
Yep.
I'm not saying that causation is correlation, people. I'm just saying since Zach started podcasting, Fish started showing up.
It's still out there. It's still good. People put it down, pros put it down, but it is still a thing.
I just heard, I listened to Ross Merriam's podcast earlier today, and they were talking about another 3 format event that's coming up.
Okay.
Where it's Legacy, Modern, and Pioneer or whatever. And they were saying, if you have a Legacy player, great. Like whatever deck they play, and then is it Tanning Grace is like, unless it's Merfolk, and he's like, yeah, if it's Merfolk, find another Legacy player. I was like, oh.
Yeah, Ross Merriam is one of the known pros that really strongly dislikes Merfolk as a type and as a deck, and it's fine. He's lost to it, I'm sure, in the past, and he'll lose to it again in the future. I hope it's me, but we have to get to big events at some point. So
top 8, Temur Footfalls, 4-color Elementals, Grixis Shadow, Blue-Red Murktide, 4-color Blink, which is not the same as Elementals, Temur Footfalls for a second time, 4-color Blink for a second time, and Black-Green Yawgmoth.
So just looking at this top 8, let's see if we can pick out what would have been the Lurrus decks, right? Just out of this top 8. Only one. It would have been the Grixis Death Shadow. And let's just take a look at that right now.
Right. What did they do differently from 2 weeks ago?
So we knew that people, as soon as Lurrus was banned, that Death Shadow would start looking for Street Wraiths, to start playing Street Wraiths again. This was something that they played originally way back a few years ago, that they had to cut because of the restrictions that Lurrus gave them.
Right. This was a powerful tool to keep their hand full, to get their life low. Mm-hmm. But Lurrus was more valuable.
Yep. And so we see it here, coming back for the first time since the ban, which is great. And otherwise,
pretty stock.
This one is running Dress Down's main board. There's another list in another event that's not running the main board.
Yeah. And I think that's just people are experimenting with Murktide Regent in Grixis Death Shadow. And I think in those lists they need more spells than enchantments. But I mean, honestly, and it's the same, it's what we said. Grixis Death Shadow isn't going to go away.
Nope.
Because Lurrus went away.
Exactly.
If we go back to the list, in the top 16, we don't see, in the top 16, we see one Hammer player.
Which would have been another Lurrus deck.
And how did they alter their plan? They added 2 Nettlecyst and a Sword of Fire and Ice. Again, not a surprise. The probably 2 of the most popular 3-mana cards for a Stoneforge Mystic archetype.
Yep. I think these saw play in the very beginning of Hammer Time. And then, back before they were Lurrus deck, they tried it out. It was fine, and then they swapped over to Lurrus.
Yeah.
So,
I do like that this list has only 3 Spring Leaf Drums. I don't know how I feel about the 2 Dark Confidants in the sideboard. I don't know what you bring them in against.
Probably attrition-based matchups. So Jund.
New Jund, Jund
Control.
Saga. Right. Against the decks that have the most removal to kill it.
Yep. I mean, everything dies to removal, right?
Everything. It's true. It's true. I'm just like, I want something more permanent, I guess. Like, one of the things that I did in the sideboard of the deck that I played last night that didn't come up was 3 CMC Kaya and Rest in Peace.
Okay.
Like, in a grindy matchup like a Jund, Rest in Peace and Kaya keeps the Goyf small, you know what I mean? And constantly gives me value and gives me a win con that is not a creature. I would just, now that if the world is our oyster, and you can put whatever you want in your hammer deck, I'll be interested to see how more experimentation comes out. But Sword of Fire and Ice, chef's kiss. I did get to play that once last night. So that's in the top 16, though. There were black-red mid-range. Would that have been a Lurrus deck? Maybe. Red-white burn might have been a Lurrus deck. Might have been.
Yeah. So this, again, this is just another diverse...
But it really is.
It's just another diverse top 16. Now, I think there was 2 Urion lists in the top 8, which he will probably become the more seen companion.
Oh, yeah. I think there's 1, 2,
3.
3.
Okay.
And then Kahira at 9. So the cat is dead. Long live the cats.
Yeah, I mean, companion is still it's a fine mechanic. I think it's fine. I know that's up for debate because not every deck can play a companion. So there are some decks that get to start games with an extra card basically in the hand. I mean, it's all up for debate. It's all it's your opinion. I think companions are fine. It would be nice if every deck could have one, and if they end up printing more with that mechanic, then we'll have to wait and see. But
man, I think that if they do that though, they're probably going to do the same thing that they did with equipment and vehicles, which is the first ones were a little too good. And the second ones were unplayable.
Yeah.
They'll come out with a whole nother round of companions at some point, and they're not going to be good.
Probably not.
Probably not. Or there will be one that's just so far better than the rest. I did bring up a list here from The Rock 988, who got 10th place in Saturday's challenge, playing a really nifty Urza deck. And you were talking about the deck that GB might have been on recently. This is very close to what he's doing, and it's just has a lot of play to it, which is exactly the kind of deck that GB excels with.
He does, and again, this has Reality Chip, the Reality Chip from the new set, which I still think it's an undervalued card.
Yeah.
In a deck like this, where it's running a ton of cheap artifacts, a ton of cheap things, Thoughtcast, a bunch of zero drop artifacts. Like, just playing things off the top of your library is what you want to do. You just dig that many cards deeper in your deck. And if you can drown your opponent in card advantage, then more than likely you'll win the game.
Yep. And you can get the full arts for our financial portion of the podcast. You can still get the full arts of these
for under $4.
Under $4. I always do like to see what a playset would cost if I look for vendors with 4. You can get them from a reputable vendor for $20. You can get a playset of the full arts. And this might be one that I want to get a full art of in foil for EDH. Like, that would be a damn good card in Commander, too.
Oh, absolutely.
How many times in Commander will I have 5 mana to just play and equip this in the same turn? Easy.
Well, not just that, but think late game in Commander, right? Decks are putting so much mana on, generating so much mana. Are you just playing everything off the top of your library?
Yeah.
It's not going to be worth $20, but
I don't know if it gets much cheaper than $350.
Probably not.
I mean, if it didn't see any play, yes, it would be a bulk rare. But it's already seeing play in Blue-White Hammer. Yep. It's already seeing play in Urza Lord High Artificer decks. It has not found its home, it has not found an awesome spot maybe in EDH yet. It might be the 98th card for every blue EDH deck. Like, oh, wait. Any EDH deck with blue, I can play anything off the top of my library for 5 mana total.
Well, and it's an artifact, right? So all those Is It artifact decks, I'm thinking of my Saheeli combo deck. It could actually play this fairly easily.
Yep.
And then I'm just thinking about just playing things off the top of my library, as long as it's not land. You could just play any number of things. So
Right, and you can play the first land off of it.
Yep, you can.
So as long as you don't hit 2 in a row, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, but it's EDH. You can change that pretty easily, right?
You can change the rules. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the reality chip. So we're back at that challenge. That was I think the standout uncommon list in this top 16.
I agree.
The top 16 was all things that we've seen multiple times. So that was the Saturday event. How about, is that what we just looked at?
No, that's different.
Okay, so this is the super qualifier. This one had a hammer in the top 8. Also had Storm in the top 8. Also had Amulet in the top 8. Actually, why don't we go through this? Grixis Shadow, 4-color blink, blue-white hammer, Amulet, blue-red Murktide, mono-green Tron, Storm and Burn. That's 8 for 8 new decks. 9th place, Living End, different deck. 10th place, we get our first double, is Grixis Death Shadow. 11th, we get Jund Food, and then we get more doubles, another Living End, another Hammer. What do you think about this event?
So this one, we actually see a different companion in Grixis Death Shadow. And this was actually, I think it was Canister.
Yeah.
The night that Lurrus was banned, posted a picture of this list on Twitter with this companion. It's the elk. It's the red-green elk. I cannot pronounce these names.
Gengantha.
Thank you.
No problem. Sorry, I didn't know if you wanted me to do that or if
No,
you were like...
I'm never going to be able to pronounce these weird names.
Gigantha the Wellspring.
But he posted this as kind of like a meme, and the internet has kind of taken it a little bit more than that. I mean, it's basically a replacement for Lurrus. It doesn't really do anything other than being a good casting 5/5 for 5, so the stats are fine. It doesn't necessarily do anything for you. It just gives you that extra card in your starting hand that you can eventually get at some point down the road.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of like the corner case where you can actually tap it for mana to cast a white or green spell. Like you couldn't already do that in your Ragavan deck. But the other thing about this is playing 2 Kaito. That's cute.
I hope we actually see more of this, because I think Kaito as the Planeswalker, I think he's decent enough to see modern play.
Well, and speaking of which, we have certainly seen the Wandering Emperor has been seeing not a ton of, but in blue-white control decks,
more play.
It's seeing more play in Modern and a bunch in Pioneer. And the price has been moving to suit it. Same thing with Otherworldly March. Like, those are 2 cards that we talked about a few weeks ago that I wish the week we first talked about them, I had picked up a pile.
Yeah.
So draw a card, then discard unless you've attacked. Create an ninja that can't be blocked. You get an emblem with whenever you deal damage. Search for a blue or black creature and put it into the battlefield. Woo! Thank God this doesn't automatically go off with doubling season.
Yes.
Because that emblem is, like, I get that emblem from the Garrick that does that.
Okay.
In my Vorinclex Planeswalkers commander deck. And the ability to... Well, I guess you still have to deal damage with this one. The Garruk one just says, at your end step, search your library for a creature and put it into play. So this one takes more power, but this is whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player. So if you hit somebody with 3 creatures, I think you get 3 out of your deck.
Does it trigger whenever a creature you control deals? Yeah, so it's looking at each instance of a creature dealing damage to your opponent. That's how I would read that. So if you swing with 3 creatures, each creature deals damage separately. That's 3 separate times that you get to go fetch a new creature.
Yeah.
Where, like, other than Grixis Death Shadow, do you think that this card could see play in, like, other architects? Like just other decks?
I mean, blue-black rogues is a thing in Historic. I think people have also tried that in Pioneer.
Okay.
So I think in the I'm never going to remember the name of that 1-mana enchantment, the Curiosity that you'd put on a 1/1 flyer, and when it hits, you draw a card.
There's been a
Curious
few of those.
Obsession is the one I'm thinking of. Curious Obsession. So like there was the Rogues deck, and there was the Flying Men, like all 1/1 flyers that you'd put a Curious Obsession on.
Yep.
And then hold up counter spell and dive down.
The standard of old.
In the standard of old. But people have been trying those kind of rogue deck, like, and I don't mean rogue as in out of the usual. I mean actual rogue creatures in Pioneer, in Historic, and on the fringes of Modern. I think that this kind of a deck would definitely love that. To make unblockable creatures is great. To get that loot, draw a card and then discard unless you attacked. All you have to do is attack. You don't even have to hit.
Nope.
I mean, I want to put this in my Ornithopter deck. I'll swing Ornithopters at you all day. People are like, I'm not going to block. Second main phase, play Kaito, draw a card.
And he phases out for the first turn.
So you get
that he's been played. So he dodges all, he dodges combat for that following turn. He dodges Planeswalker removal.
It's interesting, actually. That's a great point. And I think, I don't want to steal credit for this because I think it was that Ross Merriam podcast that I was listening to earlier. They were talking about the Wandering Emperor because you're basically guaranteed 2 activations with that Planeswalker.
The turn that you flash her and play her, and then the following turn.
And then the following turn, right? So, by design, one of the things that's a fundamental flaw in Planeswalkers is you play them, they do their thing, and then you may never see it again. Like, that's one of the flaws. Not one of the flaws, but one of the safety measures almost. And I didn't realize it with Kaito, but they actually have that in common.
They do.
Because the turn that you play this, it phases out for the whole next turn. So you're, again, unless they kill it on your upkeep or kill it on your end step, if they have instant speed removal for a Planeswalker, everything dies to removal.
Yep.
But effectively, they did, both of the Planeswalkers in this set have that in common, that one flashes in on the end step and you get an activation then, and then this one goes away, so you really do get 2 activations from each of these. And that's a very interesting thing that I had, until you just said that, I hadn't heard anybody really point out that they have something in common.
Well, and that's a good thing, though, right? Because how many times have you played Planeswalkers in Modern, Standard, or EDH and have it die immediately? Right, like that's a feel bad, right? So
Last night.
You're not exactly. So you're not, you get that one activation, like you said, and then it's who knows, could die before it comes back to your turn. So maybe this is a new direction that they want to take. Maybe not all Planeswalkers, but just some every now and then. Yeah. I think that'd be pretty cool, right? Having every other Planeswalker or something like that having just like a built-in invasion, and not all Planeswalkers now are getting the ultimates where they have an emblem, right? So the Wandering Emperor doesn't have that.
Correct.
She has two negatives, I think, and one removes creature, gives a creature, and then gives a pump.
Yep.
But she doesn't have she doesn't really have an ultimate.
No.
And a lot of the other ones, some do, some don't.
Yep.
But the ultimates, if you have that emblem, you can't interact with it.
Yeah.
So having Planeswalkers that have better ultimate abilities but don't have a emblem also kind of makes it feel a bit better, I think. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And so I guess we've had nothing, I think most people have had nothing but good things to say about Kamigawa, but just another subtle design choice that they made for this set that seems really cool.
Yep, I agree.
Really, really interesting.
This has probably been the first standard set that a lot of people have been interested in and have actually like wanted to play, wanted to draft, and overall, from what I've seen, has just been positive experiences.
One of the things that I wanted to point out, sort of in general, is if I go to the full deck list for this super qualifier from the 14th, the event was on the 13th. Basically, anybody playing green is playing Beseju. So here's a 4-color pile, money pile, Omnath pile, Beseju. That's blue-white hammer. Here is your traditional primetime Dryad, Valakut deck, Beseju. Can't run Beseju. Running Beseju.
And these are all 2-ofs, which I think if you're going to play any number of these lands, if you play any of them, any of the channel lands, 2 is probably the lowest you want to go.
1 is a spell, 1 is a land.
Exactly. The first one's free, which is great, but if you play it as land, you're going to regret it. You're not going to have anything. You're not going to have that second copy. So I think 2 for any of them is correct. I've seen, they've all been seeing some number of play. The black one's been showing up a little bit more recently. Yeah. So they really just hit this out of the park, I think.
2 in Tron, 2 in Storm, when was the last time you saw Storm in a top 8?
Oh, it's been a while. Actually, so looking at this Storm list, there's a card here that I don't recognize. It's called Discover the Impossible.
Another card from Kamigawa.
So I'm just going to read this really quickly. It's 2 in a blue, instant speed. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. Exile one of them face down. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost if it's an instant spell with mana value 2 or less. Oh. If you don't, put it into your hand. So Storm is another one of those decks that a lot of their cards are 2 CMC or less. Oh, a lot of their cantrips are 2 CMC or less. So
some of their win cons
are
2 CMC or less.
Yeah. So you cast this spell, which the slot for Discover the Impossible, I think, was usually it was another spell. I had it. I could think of the name now. I can't. Pieces of the Puzzle. It's right there in the sideboard. Does very similar things.
Yeah, but at sorcery speed.
Pieces of the Puzzle lets you pick 2 and put them into your hand. But
the other one casts it.
The other one gets to cast it for free. So you can, you get any one of your ritual spells. You can get a Consider, just any number of things. And as long as it's an instant and it's 2 mana or less, you cast it for free. So you're basically getting 2 for 1 out of this.
Out of your 3 mana. That's pretty damn good.
Seems pretty good.
You're getting 5 mana. If you blew your hand on rituals and never got the grape shot, you then look at the next 5 cards of your library to find the grape shot.
Yep.
That's pretty friggin' awesome. And again, running 2 Ottawara Soaring City just to protect themselves.
Yep.
And then burn. I don't see any new tech here.
No. So what we're not seeing is we're not seeing any new 3-drops reoccur right from the Lurrus ban. So people were speculating Liliana the Veil would come back, right? To kind of circle back around to the Lurrus band. Liliana the Veil was a modern staple, and it is now gone. And I honestly, it's probably correct. Like, she's probably just not as good anymore as she used to be.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Yes, and here we're looking at a deck that is kind of a newer Jund take in Jund Sack, playing Grist as the 3 mana planeswalker de jure.
Yep,
just does more.
It does, and I mean that could be Liliana.
Yep,
but he does a lot more right now.
This is so great. Ottawaras and Besejus, and Ottawaras and Besagers.
It's still a very healthy format.
Oh
right?
yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
like banning Lurrus again, it does open up a few, but like new things potentially. The 3-drops like Liliana, Seasoned Pyromancer come to mind, but the decks that are just floating, the decks that are dominating these events, they didn't want them before. They might not want them now.
Yeah. Now, another event that just happened was the Hunter Burton Memorial.
Yep. So this was actually the first live paper event since Lurrus banned. This is an event that happens in Texas once a year. It's a suicidal awareness event that happens. So it's a charity event. I didn't get to watch a lot of this. I hoped I could, but I didn't. But it had 472 players.
Woo!
And the top 8 was Murktide, Green-Black Yawgmoth, Blue-Red Through the Breach, Goblins, which is probably mono-red. They don't specify it, but Amulet Control, which ended up winning the event, Tron, which is probably mono-green Tron, 4-color Omnath, and Grixis Death Shadow.
And yeah, I mean, another top 8 out of almost 500 players. We ended up with a top 8 there of 8 different decks.
Mm-hmm. And the only one that could have been a Lurrus deck again was the Shadow. So
yeah,
can't view that. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Might be a bad link. We're trying to pull up those deck lists, but it's not letting us.
Yeah. So we have the list here on Reddit, and if I try and click on the link, it says, they're trying to steal my personal information. Don't be trying to steal my personal information, but we do have, we can find them the hard way.
Yep.
So let's look at the Gary Wong.
I wonder if this will.
Last name.
Right there.
Wong, yep. Gary, Amulet. I used this site earlier and it worked.
Okay.
Oh, look, Beseju. Extra Beseju in the sideboard. In the sideboard. That's cute. Turn Timber Symbiosis, Summer's Pact. Cultivator Colossus is pretty much just the staple now.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. Handwear Battlements from the second Innistrad set. That's
Trying to see that. There it is. I see it. Yep.
Handwear Battlements is the land that you pay a red and tap it, and you can give a creature haste.
Yep. Now this technically flips to something else if you have another land too. Correct? I think it's one of those.
You had to have the creature.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So this is from the Return to Innistrad set.
Yeah, which I cannot.
Yeah.
For the life of me, think of what the name of that one was. What was that? Shadows. Over Innistrad. Yep. Holy crap! That was a long time ago now. But I just love the fact that we're seeing a deck that's been around for as long as I've been playing Modern.
Mm-hmm.
Still is here. Still winning. Mostly original cards, you know. A Boreal Grazer is only a couple of years old. Cultivator Colossus is really new. Dryad's a couple of years old.
The Castle is also fairly new too. That's something that they didn't have
the
in the beginning.
New. The Turn Timber's new. Handwear Battlements, that's 5 or 6 years old. Maybe 5 years old. God, it's hard to tell. But very cool. I mean, I was afraid I was going to do that. And so that was Gary Wong's Amulet list that won. We want to look at Zach McCohen's Grixis Shadow. That would have been that would have wanted Lurrus probably, and not being a Lurrus deck, ran Giganta.
Yep. So this one is not running Murktide, like some lists have been trying to adapt.
Yep.
And it's not running any new Planeswalkers. So, I mean, it's still copy-paste. It's copy-paste from the Lurrus era to non-Lurrus era minus the Giganta.
Yeah,
Giganta.
I don't
And that's
even
it.
I don't even see Street Wraiths.
Nope. So again, Lurrus was banned for what?
Yeah. It just, everything got so much better, Zach. The most fun that I had, so you sent me these links earlier.
Yep.
I sorted them by archetype.
Okay.
First off, props to Robert Johnson for running a 4-color Ferris Rockerick deck. You didn't top 8, but you brought what you loved. And then look at all these 4-color Omnaths and all these 4-color Yorions.
They should just be the same thing. Because any one of these 4-color Yorion lists are probably playing Omnath. So they should be the same thing.
Well, and then there's the Elementals
That's true.
version. Like, okay. Abzan, Stoneblade, and Ad Nauseum. One Ad Naus player. Jeremy holler at you. Good job. Assault Loam, Bant Control, Bant Urion, Belcher. Like a good handful representing Belcher.
Mm-hmm.
Blink, Lawrence Wong. I want to see what this Blink list is. It's probably not going to be mine. Okay, so this was Soul Herder, Blink.
Okay.
Again, a deck some of us are probably somewhat familiar with. Not hugely popular, but not brand new tech.
It's kind of fallen off the map a little bit. It was fairly well known, I feel like, and then it just kind of stopped.
As well known as Boomer Jund. Boros Burn. Now, here you go. If you want to believe us when we say you're going to see a lot of burn, there's probably more burn than anything else represented here.
Yep, absolutely.
Boros Stoneforge, Black Red Anvil, Black Red Ragavan. That could be anything.
Yep.
Domain Zoo, Dredge, Elves, Enchantress. Nice little handful. Esper Mentor. Kevin Lund must be a huge fan of Aspiring Spike. Esper Reanimator. I'm surprised we only saw one. Green Black Yawgmoth. Good handful. Goblins. Small. Ponza and Valakut. Like, what's green and red Valakut that's different from Titan?
That's such a good question.
Primeval Titan. Okay. So, just what they decided to call it.
Yep.
Grixis Hitasugu. Man, that card has taken off.
So that's actually seeing a lot of play in red black lists for typically Death Shadow because of its ability to exile graveyards and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Kind of a mid-rangey list.
Yeah.
They really want to play against all of your 1-drops. They want to get your Dragon Rage Channelers and your Ragavans. I like it. Bunch of Grixis Shadow, Green White Cocoa, Green White Company, Hammer, Hardened Scales, Humans. In fact, Jeskai Control, Jeskai Creativity, Jeskai Lotus Field, Jund Hitasugu, Jund Shadow. Nice, almost full screen of Living End.
A fair bit of Living End there, which is, being one of the, I feel like, dedicated combo decks in the format right now. It's not surprising to see this many, especially in almost a 500-person event. Like, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good turnout for Living End.
Yeah, I mean, almost a full page. And that's, 500-person event. You're going to have a lot of people that are really trying to win it and a lot of people that just own their modern deck.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of which, John Hatton, Jeff Caffo, William Herdman, and Ricky Eliason.
Fish people.
Mill, Mono Black, Mono Green Karnza, Mono Green Stompy, Mono Red Moon, Mono White Stoneblade. James Doyle, you get another prize for being the only person to bring Neoform. Like, that's still a deck in Modern. People can still do that crap
dead.
on turn 2.
It should be dead. I mean, it's the combo is fairly easy to disrupt. Outside of having Veil of Summer, which should also just be a banned Magic card in my opinion, but that's fine.
Reanimator, Red Green Cards. I don't know. Heap of Rhinos.
Yep.
Heap of Rhinos, still powerful. Shamans, Spirits, Slivers, Storm, Teamer Wreck, Tron for Days, Blue-Red Breach, Blue-Red Control, Blue-Red Creativity, Blue-Red Murktide. Oh, for a page and a half. Almost
So does this bring us to the end? No, there we go.
Blue-Red Phoenix, Control, Prowess, blue-white hammer, Thopter sword combo, blue-white Urza, which is, sort of what GB's been playing, Blue Z hammer, which is just a reality chip hammer.
Okay.
And then a Urion elementals. I mean, there's your look at what's in Modern. Though, like, this is your homework assignment. If you want to know what you might play against, I would love to see this sort of cleaned up a little into a nice pie chart that said 23%
something like that.
Decks that had less than 5 copies. And then 7% were Amulet, and 8% were Grixis Death Shadow, and 12% were Murktide, because that was probably the biggest. Burn and Murktide were probably the 2 biggest lists that we scrolled through.
Yep.
Modern's healthy.
It's fine.
I got nothing bad to say about that. I did want to mention another card before we ended today, and I'm going to show a brief clip from Aspiring Spike, and I hope I don't get into YouTube trouble for this. But there is a card, and I actually watched the Game Nights episode where they did the Kamigawa Commanders. And I think Lady Danger was the player that played Ishin Two Heavens as one in EDH. It's Mardu colors red, white, black for legendary creature, human samurai, 3/4. If a creature attacking causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time.
Triggers twice.
I read this card. I watched her play the deck. I saw the things that she did with it. I never at any point thought to myself, well, this is a Modern card. And then I was watching Aspiring Spike play, and I saw
off the volume though.
I can let it play for a couple of seconds.
Okay, cool. At 2 speed, 2x speed.
Yeah, at 2x speed, they'll never know. Yeah, I mean, YouTube can try and demonetize our videos, but joke's on you, YouTube. I don't get monetized anyway.
Maybe.
It's just 5 color humans. They've got Werewolf Pack Leader and Fervent Chip like humans.
So he says, what do you mean this is just 5 color humans?
They've got Werewolf Pack Leader and Fervent Chip. Yeah, this isn't just 5 color humans.
And so he's playing against this humans player who has Fervent Champion, Champion of the Parish, Noble Hierarch in play, plays Adeline, Resplendent Cathar, vials in Ishin, Two Heavens, attacks with the Champion of the Parish, gets 2 exalted triggers from the Noble Hierarch, 2 token triggers from Adeline. Everything good in my human's ever-loving heart. Like, my heart grew 10 sizes today when I saw that. I'm not telling you to go out and get your Werewolf Pack Leaders, but I mean, a 3/3 for 2 that draws you cards sometimes is probably good enough.
The mana base for that, though, like, it basically has to be lands that can tap for any color. Because he went turn 1 Vial, turn 2 he went Werewolf Pack Leader, which is a human. It does have the human subtype, but that's double green. Right. Okay, so he went double green spell into double white spell because he played the one that makes tokens, but that one is 1 and 2 white. So he went from double green to double white, and then he does Vial in the Mardu one, but those
he could have cast it. He could have cast it with his lands. He could have cast it.
Yep. So 5 color humans, you basically just have to play lands that can tap for any color.
I mean, which is all it's done, basically all along.
This is true.
And we got a new one.
You did.
And so you could still play Ancient Ziggurat if you literally needed 22 5-color lands.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, again, I'm not saying it's great. I'm not saying it's the way of the world, but I'm saying I will not be surprised if I see more people trying the Ishin build of humans that really deviates from what we've come to expect from that deck, and really playing on attack triggers.
It's cool. I mean,
It's cool. It's very powerful. It may be cute, but it's a 3/4. It doesn't die to bolt. What broke my brain when I saw it was, wait, Exalted is an attack trigger. So even if, like, imagine, here's Brad. I'm going to play a base green deck with 16 5-color lands. I'm going to play 4 nobles and 4 ignobles.
Yep. Because we have 8 nobles now.
Yeah. And I'm gonna play this on 2, and guess what? Ignoble makes red.
And it makes black.
And it makes black. So even you can still cast that. And then the next turn, violin a Manus Rider and swing for friggin' so 3 plus 2 is 5, 7. So my Manus Rider will swing for 7. That sounds like a good time to me.
I'm all set with that, thanks. Keep that away from me.
You miss the Manus Rider days, don't you?
No,
Sarah?
I do not.
That was the only card that could actually get over the fish.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember.
I remember when, just really quickly, the last Grand Prix I went to, it was right before Merfolk Trickster was legal, so I was playing Tide Benders in my Merfolk list, it's double blue, it's a 2/2, but it taps down a red or a green creature until it leaves the battlefield. I was running that main board to fight against Manus Riders, because humans was the menace at that time.
Yeah.
So
I don't want to end the cast without having at least a little bit of financial advice.
go for it.
And so, for people that have listened to us or watched these videos on YouTube before, you probably are familiar with MTG Stocks. But for those of you that haven't or aren't, if you're ever thinking about cards and you want to go to mtgstocks.com, it's a great place to look up card values very relatively. Like, I wouldn't look up a card there and say that's the dollar amount you're going to get to buy it or sell it for. But it definitely tracks well when card prices change. And one of the things that you get is, if you go to analytics on their main page, all-time high and low, very simply, when's a good time to buy a card? When it's at its all-time low. and so I look at this list and I sort it by what cards are the most expensive cards that are actually at their cheapest.
Okay.
Right? And so what card is normally really expensive, but right now is as low as it's ever been? Mm-hmm. Verdant Catacombs. And that's the Expedition.
Okay. Where'd it go?
Oh, we're back
You
to
gotta
all-time high.
Yeah, you gotta change it again.
And one more time. Misty Rainforest Retro Frame. Scalding Harm from the Secret Lairs. Verdant Catacomb Expos. So now this gets a little confusing. Hey, Snapcaster Mage from the list. As low as it's ever been. That's just good stuff to know. Like, Tarmogoyfs. Tarmogoyfs are dirt cheap.
$31.
Actually, the Beseju Who Endures promo pack version is as cheap as it's been so far. Oh, hi, Cat. The other way that I will use this as a tool is sort by set and look at it that way. Like, okay, what's a hard set to get stuff from?
Probably like Modern Masters.
All right, so here's some older Modern Masters cards. Modern Masters 2015 Cryptic Command. It's as low as it's ever been. The Tarmogoyf is as low as it's ever been. The Goblin Guide. The ugly art Goblin Guides that nobody liked. As low as they've ever been. Scalding Tarn. As low as it's ever been. If you need Tarns, this is sort of saying it's not a bad time to get them. Mm-hmm. And we've said that several times. The next thing I will do is look at all-time high. And this one I will immediately sort by set and go, what did I just see? Battle for Zendikar. I opened up a bunch of that. Void Winnower. Void Winnower is as high as it's ever been at $14. Now, I don't know why, and I can try and figure that out. Mm-hmm. Like, is there a reason why Void Winnower is going up right now? I don't know. but I might throw it in my trade binder if I go over there into my Battle for Zendikar box and look, throw Void Winter in my trade binder because it's worth as much now as it's ever been. Buy a box promos, Champions of Kamigawa, some Commander cards, Commander Legends stuff. So the foil Nekusar, it's only $7, but it's as high as it's ever been. I might look at that and say, is it just trending up? What does the trend line look like? Doesn't look like much from here.
No, it looks pretty flat.
So
it's a good tool, is what you're getting at, right? So it's a good tool that probably not enough people utilize.
Correct.
I know when I joined the cast, I tried to keep this in mind. I started to visit it, maybe once every few days. Still trying to figure out what's the best way to look at stuff, but I would also type in cards because it has a nice feature that you can link it to your Facebook and then you can select certain cards to watch. So it's like a watch list. So if it moves, you'll get a nice little notification somewhere on your social media or whatever that says, hey, this did something, which is nice. I've had that happen a few times for some of the cards that I've been watching.
So I resorted this just by the highest price cards. Some of these are bogus, but like Mox Pearl from Beta, certainly not messing with that. But I found it very interesting to see Mox Opal from Double Masters, which was a recent reprint, is as high as it's ever been. And so I started looking at Mox Opal in general, and all of them are very slowly trending up.
This has to be because of EDH, because this is banned in
It is
Modern.
banned in
So
Modern.
the fact that it's slowly climbing is interesting.
Right, and you see where it was at its peak from its print, and then it dropped off at the ban, and then people really gave in for a while. Like, it took a long time for people to sell them all,
Yep.
and it got down to a certain point, but it has slowly just creeping up from EDH play. So again, I'm not saying run out and sell your Mox Opals, but I'm saying looking at this all-time high list, you'll see cards that you maybe didn't think were moving. Seasoned Pyromancer, seeing more play. Price is the highest it's ever been. The Meat Hook Massacre, as high as it's ever been. Pretty wild stuff. And great information like earlier the War Leader. This is actually bumped up because of that card Ishin.
Yep.
Because the get an extra combat phase is an attack trigger.
Now you get 2 extra combat
Now you get
phases.
2 extra combat triggers.
Okay.
So very cool. That's all I'll say about that. Just so that we got to add something of financial relevance to this cast, because there are no cards that I'm really into right now. I've spent a bunch of money on cards that I needed.
Yep. Yeah. I also I spec'd on the white March of the Otherworldly Light, which we talked about a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
They were sitting around $6, $7, $8 last week, a few days ago, and I ended up buying 3 play sets for under $10 a piece, basically. So those are slowly coming in the mail.
Yeah. That's awesome. And that's a, I like that, you sort of said spec, but it's not like you got a billion of them, right?
No, I mean, I have a little over 3 play sets now, probably. I've got the full arts and I've got the showcases, because I think those are going to be the ones that people are going to want.
Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason, when you search that off
Yeah.
of TCG, you have to actually type it in showcase.
Oh, yeah. Or extended art.
Yep. But it's proving itself more and more in Pioneer. It's proving itself more and more in Modern.
I'm getting blown out by it.
Exactly. Brad talked about it last weekend from the 1K that we went to. I thought it was not going to perform as well as Prismatic Ending does, but being instant speed has just
such a big difference.
It's just a big difference.
And getting that evoke elemental sort of hidden flavor of you can pitch a card.
Yep.
So yeah, it costs an extra white to cast it. But if Prismatic Ending cost 1 white to deal with a white thing, a 1-drop, And in this instance, you have to fill up that extra cost. You just pitch a card to it. If it means that they don't untap with Amulet of Vigor, it's worth it.
Yeah, and the decks that are playing this are playing lots of draw card effects, so...
Right, so the disadvantage is not so bad.
Exactly.
Oh, maybe that's what I have to do in my Grief Blade deck. I need Read the Bones. I need card draw. If only Liliana the Veil actually drew you cards. I was actually, so, not to go off topic, but I was thinking about Liliana the Last Hope, because, and I haven't looked at her in forever, but I know she has an effect where she'll mill cards into your graveyard and then you get a creature back. Liliana the Last Hope. And I was like, oh, maybe that's the Lily I need to be playing in if I'm trying to do this brew. Put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. You may turn over a creature card from there. So, like, I mill a couple of cards. Maybe I mill the Parhelion and put the Greasefang back in my hand.
Ah, there you go. Yep. It's another way to put stuff in the graveyard for that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like, if the deck were Greasefang combo, that might be.
Mm-hmm. It's another way to dedicate towards that combo.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know.
Worth a shot.
It might be. These are the things and many more that we talk about when you're hanging out with us here at the SnapCast podcast every week on your favorite listening device or the YouTubers.
Awesome.
I like going out on a laugh. That was fun, man.
Yeah. As always, guys. Catch you later.
Woo!